Join our weekly Arabic lessons on the Discord server starting from July 22nd. This will be perfect for beginners and new reverts, taught by an Arabic expert who is an Ustad. You'll also get access to detailed notes on the early church fathers, refutations, and answers to all your questions directly to myself. It's just $10 a month on the Patreon. This support will help also fund thumbnails, editing, and keeps the DAWAH efforts going strong. Links are in the description down below. Now, let's begin with the
It's
video.
going to go through like the same sort of layout as before. How the layout goes is we discuss the early interpretations, show how it's obviously nonsense. I'm going to also give some apologists, some famous Christian apologists that bring up these sort of arguments, and I'm going to show you how weak it is. Then we're going to be going to the earliest interpretations, the context, as well as how scribes try to meddle with it. So remember how in Mark 10:18 they meddled with the Matthean version, Matthew 19:17, and they changed the whole question and the whole narrative. So you're going to find something similar here as well. So how the passage goes is, but about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. This appears in Mark 13:32, but it also appears in Matthew 24:36. And there's going to be interesting differences between the two that we're going to go through, inshallah. So this is the first ad hoc reinterpretation that we find. Ad hoc just means obviously post the fact. They have this interpretation that they're forcing onto the text, that they reinterpret the immediate interpretation that they have in their mind, and they reinterpret it to what the preconceived notion they had previously into the text. So what Augustine says is regarding Mark 13:32, according to the form of a slave. However, his teaching is not his own, but of the one who sent him. Hence, of that day or hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. He is ignorant of this in the special sense of making others ignorant to it. He did not know it in their presence in such a way as to be prepared to reveal it to them at that time. So he's saying basically the whole declaration nonsense that we usually hear. He's saying no here just means he doesn't declare it to them at the time. Then he gives an example. Recall that in a similar way it was said to Abraham, now I know that you fear God, in the sense that I am taking you through a continuing journey to know yourself, because Abraham came to know himself only after he had been tried in adversity. So there's a couple of problems with that. First of all, it's assuming that the God of the Bible is omniscient, right? But we know there's deficiencies in the Old Testament that we can ascribe to God as per the apparent reading of the text. I don't want to get too deep into that, but that's the main point we're going to say in response to that. First of all, you're assuming this. Other parts of the Old Testament say God was refreshed. He literally took like rejuvenation. Other parts have other stuff where God regrets and God forgets. Yeah, so we know that it's not impossible to think that the author of the Old Testament, when he writes that now God knows, that he really means now God knows that Abraham is obedient to God and he's righteous, right? So that's the first problem. And the second problem is obviously we're going to get through later in the presentation. No, even if we grant that that's what it means in the context of the Old Testament, even if we grant that, it doesn't do anything because the context of Mark 13:32 is so clear that it is not using it in that way of how he's trying to say the Old Testament uses it. And we're going to show that through the context, early interpretations, and so on. The next response is J. Dyer's response. So he's a famous Eastern Orthodox apologist. His interpretation that he gives is actually a misunderstanding of an early church father's position, and we're going to show that, inshallah, okay? So the understanding he brings up is from Basil of Caesarea. This is letter 236. And what basically he says is that no man or no one is a general expression that doesn't exclude the Son. So remember how Basil had the same interpretation for Mark 10:18 in the previous presentation. So he's saying no man is just a general expression that doesn't exclude Jesus. So there's no problem with that, right? Now, the issue with that is that only works if the text doesn't say nor the Son. So I can say no one knows, but as long as I don't exclude myself, it's possible I am saying myself as well. No problem. But if I say no one knows, not even me, that obviously you can't say then just a general expression that doesn't exclude myself because I explicitly exclude myself.
Basically saying not the Son, which is he excludes himself. So he cannot
Exactly.
declare. If
But
he doesn't declare it, he would have not put himself in there. If he didn't say, if he said not the angels, not this, but he doesn't mention not the Son, then we could have said, okay, he does know,
exactly,
but he does not. He completely
exactly. You could say it's just a general expression, right?
Yeah.
You could just say it's a general expression that no one knows, not the angels, but he doesn't say not the Son. But
Yeah.
the thing is, Akhi, you know why Basil says this? And Basil agrees with me and you right now. Basil had a manuscript of Matthew that didn't have nor the Son. So that's why he's saying this.
Oh, he had one that says not the Son.
That doesn't have nor the Son.
Oh, how comes?
So people were actually meddling with the manuscripts, and we'll get to that later, inshallah. But that,
Okay.
but that's one point of emphasis, because this apologist, right, very famous apologist, this is his go-to interpretation. He used this against Daniel in his debate, I believe, when they were discussing this. I think the Daniel and Ijaz, and he was bringing up the point that no one, right, also doesn't exclude the Son, because it's a general expression. And then he cites Basil. But the reason why Basil holds this interpretation is because his manuscript of Matthew didn't have nor the Son. And he says this here. He says this later on in his letter 236. So he says, it would be worthy of your diligence to set the phrases of the gospel side by side and compare together those of Matthew and those of Mark, for these two alone are found in concurrence in the passage. Then he quotes both of them. What is noticeable in these passages is this, that Matthew says nothing about the ignorance of the Son, and seems to agree with Mark as to the sense of saying my Father only. Then he says, he could not say what is false, who said all things that are Father. So he's basically using John to interpret it, which, the main point is, in the passage in Matthew, then, the Lord made no mention of his own person as a matter beyond controversy, and said that the angels knew not, and that his Father alone knew, tacitly asserting the knowledge of the Father to be his own knowledge too. Okay, so basically what we have here, Akhi, is he's saying Matthew doesn't say nor the Son. And he's saying make sure you put them side by side, Mark and Matthew, because you're going to notice this difference, right? So then look what he says later. He says, now as to the words of Mark, who appears distinctly. So he's distinctly saying this. It's him in particular. It's not Matthew. Distinctly to exclude the Son from the knowledge. My opinion is this: no man knows, neither the angels of God, nor yet the Son would have known, unless the Father had known. So do you understand what he's saying?
I'm so confused, bro. What is he? What kind of? What's he trying to say?
He's basically saying if the Father didn't know, then the Son wouldn't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So you see, Akhi, and notice this here. Look what he says. To a fair hearer, there's no violence. So he's already anticipating someone's going to say, like, what are you talking about? This nonsense. So he's saying, yeah, to a fair hearer, there's no violence in this interpretation. Because the word only. So look at his justification. His justification on interpreting Mark like this is because the word only is not added as it is in Matthew. Right? So he's saying, okay, because it doesn't say only the Father in Mark, and because it doesn't say nor the Son, because it doesn't say nor the Son in Matthew as well, we can't interpret it in this way. So then he says Mark's sense then is as follows. So remember, he told us Matthew's sense before. Just let me go back to that. So Matthew's sense is no one knows, but this is referring to a general expression. It doesn't exclude the Son because it doesn't have nor the Son in Matthew. But he's saying now with Mark is different. He's saying Mark's sense is as follows: of that day and hour knows no man, nor the angels of God, but even the Son would not have known if the Father had not known, for the knowledge naturally was given by the Father. So this is nonsense, right?
So, but is that the text or is that his interpretation?
This is interpretation.
That's his interpretation.
Okay, so you said in Matthew it doesn't say nor the Son.
For him, yeah. Yep.
No,
he had the
some manuscripts it does, and some manuscripts it doesn't. And he's using the ones that don't have it.
Avery's interpretation.
No, it goes, I tried, guys.
So this is Avery's interpretation. He uses Paul, right? So I'm sure you've heard this, Akhi, where they say, "Oh, Paul says, I resolve to know nothing but Christ," and he means here declare, right? So have you heard of this before?
I think so. Yeah, I think he.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So he says, "For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ." So obviously, Paul isn't saying he doesn't actually know anything. He's not saying that. They're going to say, "Oh, he's saying I've resolved to declare nothing but this," right? And then here's the words. They are the same word. You have oiden and aidenai, right? Which is to know. Got oiden and Mark knows, and then you have aidenai to know used by Paul, right? Okay, no problem. Listen, we'll grant them for the sake of the argument. Oiden can be used in two different senses: to declare and to know. Okay. When you have a word, akhi, that can be interpreted in two different ways, how do you determine which ways to be interpreted in what? It's obviously by the context. It's obviously by the intention of the person, by the author, right? So that's what we're going to try to get into a bit later. But for now, I think I have one more. Yeah, so we have one more interpretation. This is, oh, Jesus doesn't know in his human nature. So the problem with that is that doesn't account for the Holy Spirit not knowing. Right? So Inspiring Philosophy actually says this to himself in this clip.
He was once again in full glory with the Father and was omniscient and omnipresent. So this is the answer most Christians give. However, there are problems with this explanation. That is not to say that it's incorrect, just that it doesn't explain everything. The most notable is the fact that in Mark 13:32, Jesus says only the Father knows, but why not the Holy Spirit? If the Holy Spirit is fully God, then shouldn't he know as well? Why wouldn't Jesus say the Father and the Holy Spirit know the hour? Well, some have tried to answer this by suggesting that perhaps the Holy Spirit willingly limited his knowledge as well, but this almost seems ad hoc.
What we have, Brother Ali, is different interpretations. Obviously, they're trying to reconcile the passage and they're giving possible interpretations. But not every interpretation is a sound interpretation, is a probable interpretation. So here's one example I give. It's possible when I'm sleeping at night and I wake up to the sound of crickets. It's possible that someone changed my ringtone on my phone to play cricket sounds. It's possible. It's not impossible. It's possible, but it's just unlikely. But what's the most probable conclusion is actually it's just crickets outside that woke me up, right? Now that's one thing we always have to bear in mind when we're discussing with them is make that distinction. Is your interpretation more likely or mine? Because they're always going to give possible interpretations. Anyone can give possible interpretations for anything, right? They can give convoluted, ad hoc interpretations for anything. And this is one thing I want everyone to remember when we're engaging with them. Context, earliest interpretations, and do the scribes later try to change it or have anxiety in terms of trying to transmit it to other people? Do they try to alter it? Obviously, the context is important. Mark 13:32 says, "But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." So a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people don't actually present the context when they're making this argument, even though it's completely in our favor. So what you have here in the context of Mark 13:32 is have be on guard, be alert. You do not know when that time will come. Okay, Brother Ali, what do you think Jesus is saying here when he says you do not know when that time will come? You do not declare it?
Say that again. Okay, so you do not know when that time will come. I mean, yeah, it seems like you be on guard, be alert. You do not know when that time will come. So it's telling that they're ignorant of it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's ignorant of it.
So when you have the usage of the term "know" being used for knowledge here, then clearly the most likely thing is it's also being referred to knowledge previously. Like, what's the likelihood you're going to have knows being used in one sense here as declare, and then in another sense here meaning knowledge? Very unlikely. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I didn't. Can you repeat that? I didn't understand that.
Okay. So in the previous passage, verse 32, it says, "But about that day or hour, no one knows." So if this was declaring, what's the likelihood Jesus is going to say, no one knows, not the angels, nor the Son, but in the sense of declaring. But then the verse after he says, you do not know when that time will come, but that's in knowledge, that's not in declaring. What's the likelihood he's going to be using two different usages like that? like just switching like that. Very unlikely. What's more likely is he has a consistent usage, which is knowledge, just knowledge, not declaring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond God, you do not know when it will come. Yeah, exactly. It's been consistent. It's not about
Exactly.
it's about knowledge.
Yep. Exactly. More than that, the verses after build on what I just told you right now. Look at the example he gives. It's like a man going away. He leaves his house and puts his servants in charge, each with their assigned task, and tells the one at the door to keep watch. Okay, so there's one person at the door keeping watch. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know when the owner of the house will come. So, again, knowledge.
Yeah,
Like
it's
this is
not a declare issue, because it
Mhm.
makes it in context of it's a knowledge issue. Like when it says, for example, therefore keep watch because you do not know when the owner of the house will come. They're saying you will not declare when the owner of the house will come.
Exactly. So, Aka, what I want you to do is we're going to do the same thing with Matthew now. So, Matthew actually gives more examples than this one. So, I want you to point out to me.
The same
Yeah, go ahead.
story in Mark, is it the similar in Matthew when it talks about this one? Therefore, keep up.
Yes.
Keep watch.
Yes.
Okay.
It has one similar, and Matthew adds 2 more examples on top of that, but all of them support us. So, I want you to explain to me how each one helps us. So, this is Matthew, right? So, this is the same thing as in Mark, but about that day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So, this is the same thing in our Bibles today. So, I want you to explain to me after he says that how, in context, this helps our case.
Okay, one
So, this is the
second.
Matthew version.
But about that day when no one knows, the angels heaven nor the Son, but only the Father, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be coming of the Son of Man. So he's mentioned in the people of Noah that they knew nothing about what would happen until it actually happened. Hey, naughty. Sorry.
Are you good? Yep, exactly that. So,
Yeah.
so what's it representing? It's representing the hour with the flood, and then you have them not knowing when the hour will come, them not knowing when the flood will come. So that's very clear. Is that clear?
Yeah. It's good because
Yep.
when you read it in context, it gives you more evidence that it's not a declare issue. It's a
Exactly.
issue. That's good.
Exactly.
That's very good, actually.
Here's another one. This is in Matthew as well. This comes after the Noah example.
Yeah,
So it says, therefore keep watch, because you do not know on the day your Lord will come. But understand this, second example. If the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not let his house be broken into. So he's saying again, he's comparing it to the knowledge of people, right? Comparing it to the knowledge of people that have a house and a thief comes and steals. The owner of the house, if he knew, he would have prepared for this. So he's saying, don't let that be you when the Son of Man comes, right? You got to be ready. You got to be ready when I return. Make sense?
Let me read it. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's a knowledge base. If the owner of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would have not let his house. Yeah. So if he had knowledge, he would have acted upon it. So which means the Son did not know the hour.
Yep, exactly. So there's going to be one more example, Akhi. Who then is the faithful and wise servant whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all of his possessions. But suppose that the servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time, and he then begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat with drunk and drink with drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. You see how that's also pertaining to knowledge?
Is this the continuation of those verses?
Yep, all of that is in Matthew. Yep.
Oh wow, that's fun. Exactly. It all goes back to knowledge, not declaring. If it was declaring, it would have consistencies.
Exactly.
It would have
Exactly
been like,
right, yeah.
it would support it
Yeah.
by saying, he did not declare for this. The master of that servants will come on a day when he does not. If you could have said when he did not declare,
Yep.
so
Yep.
it makes it our point more stronger.
Now, we're not going to end it there, obviously. With these presentations, we like to show the context, we like to show the early interpretations, we like to show other factors as well to really boost so they really have nowhere to go, they have nowhere to hide. So Irenaeus of Lyon is a early church father in the 2nd century, and he gives the interpretation that Jesus literally does not know. Okay, this is before the Council of Nicaea, before they established Jesus being co-equal with the Father in 325 AD. So this is the reference against heresies, book 2, chapter 28, section 6. So Akhi, if you want to read that for us.
But beyond reason, inflated with your own wisdom, you presumptuously maintain that you are acquainted with the unspeakable mysteries of God, while even the Lord, the very Son of God, allowed that the Father alone knows the very day and the hour of judgment, when he plainly declares, go. But of that day, the hour knows no man, neither the Son, but the Father only. If then the Son was not ashamed to ascribe the knowledge on that day to the Father only, but declared that was true regarding the matter, neither let us be ashamed to reserve for God those who grant questions which may occur to us.
Those greater questions.
Those great questions, yeah.
Yep. So you see how that's clearly saying he's saying that Jesus doesn't know.
Sorry, Aki.
No, you're good, Akhi. Take your time.
Yeah, you're good, Akhi.
Or you could tell me what you've understood from it so
So
far.
this is like tafsir.
Basically, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, the mysteries of God. While even the Lord, the very Son of God, allowed that the Father alone knows the very day. When he says allowed that the Father alone knows the very day and the hour of judgment, what does he mean by allowed?
Yeah. So he's not saying he gave, not saying that he gave authority to the Father, because we have another translation I can pull up right now, actually, from another scholar that translates allow as, I think it says was okay with, right? So he's not saying allow as in he gave the Father the authority to. He's saying allow as in, like, when someone says allow it, right? Like he's okay with it. He's okay. He's not like complaining. He's not making a big fuss about it. That's what he means by allow. Not as in he gave the Father authority. I can bring up the other translation now. There's actually a Discord server where I have all of these sources, and you can use them, inshallah. So this translation's from Dominic Unger and John Dillon on Against Heresies. This is another translation than from what we have. And this is what he says: puffed up in an irrational manner, you impudently assert that you know all the ineffable mysteries of God, whereas the Lord, the very Son, admitted, not allowed, admitted, right? So you're saying this translation and the other one aren't in conflict, but they're just saying the same thing in different ways. Allowed is more ambiguous. It gives them a bit of leeway. They're like, oh no, allowed, look, allowed. He gave authority for the Father. But no, that's not what he means by allowed. When that translator is translating as allowed, he means it as in he admitted, he was okay with, he didn't mind saying, right? So yeah, that's the clarification on that point. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yep. Tertullian of Carthage. So Tertullian is one of the first people to use the term Trinity. He comes at around 200 AD, and he is a heretic for them, no problem. But he's also an early attestation for us to see how people interpreted this passage. So it's no problem even as a heretic. The point is, people quote Tertullian as a Trinitarian, even though he's heretical, because his only heresy they had, Akhi, was he followed a prophet at his time that claimed to be a prophet after Isa alayhi salam, right? That was his only heresy. Besides that, they say, yeah, he was a Trinitarian. So you can still quote him, obviously, if they're saying that he's a Trinitarian. So this is what he says in his book Against Praxis, chapter 26. Very straight up, very clear. He is also ignorant of the last day and hour, which is known to the Father only. And he cites Matthew 24:36. Okay.
Mm. That's good.
Now we're gonna go. So, Akhi, if you wanna, if you have any questions on these two interpretations we gave before Nicaea, obviously post Nicaea, Akhi, you're gonna have these ad hoc reinterpretations, but that's why we like to focus before Nicaea because this is before the development of the doctrines.
Yeah.
So, any questions on these?
No.
No. Okay. So here's the last part. We're referring to it a bit at the beginning. The meddling with the manuscript. So actually, Akhi, if you go to Matthew 24:36 right now, and the NIV translation, one of the most popular translations, in the footnote, it'll tell you some manuscripts do not have nor the Son. So we still have manuscripts where we see some of them, they're trying to distort it.
Mm.
So even today, people see that.
Oh, wow. Some manuscripts do not have no the Son.
So obviously, we mentioned this before, we highlighted it enough. Basil thinks nor the Son isn't in Matthew, right? So he literally thinks that's what Matthew wrote. That's how badly they're messing up the scribes of Matthew are omitting it. And Ambrose, another church father, he comes post Nicaea. He says the ancient Greek manuscripts do not contain the words neither the Son, but it is not to be wondered at if they who have corrupted the scriptures, who have corrupted the sacred scriptures, have also testified this passage. The reason for which it seems to have been inserted is perfectly plain, so long as it is applied to unfold such blasphemy. So he's saying people are adding it into Matthew to purport blasphemy.